Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where the orchard of wisdom shows are at your fingertips. It ignites your soul, your heart, your spirit, your mind, and your body with illumination from people who have made the journey before you. They're here now to help you on your journey, on your path of self-discovery. We are funded by you, the audience, and the people we interview. If you wish to support us, please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com and press on our Fund Action button. Anything is appreciated. We'd like you to sit back and enjoy the shows. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Ignite Your Heart and Soul, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful repeat guest back, I think for the fifth time, is Kimberley Lovell. We have a lot to talk about today, and what we are going to be talking about is your soul's journey. Soul journey is an exploration of multidimensional consciousness. Sounds quite intriguing, doesn't it? She's also written a book about the soul's journey, where she shares many stories of the clients that she's worked with. But today we're going to find out all about that book. We're going to update, because it's been a while since we last did our last show. I think the last one we did was the Manifesting Love. And it's time to catch up and find out what she's doing now. Well, she's written a book, and she talks about past life regression and the spirit world and life between lives and galactic beings. And, to enjoy our powerful quantum hypnotic journey to connect more deeply to your soul and receiving healing. Because when you connect with your soul and you're resonating on that vibration, the healing begins. So let's take that journey into gain some valuable insight, connect with and embody powerful resources to support us in our current lives. And Kimberley is a psychotherapist, a transpersonal psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, intuitive business coach, master healer, spiritual channeler, and teacher and author of The Soul's Journey of Exploration of Multidimensional Consciousness. She's been doing this for over 30 years and has helped clients from all over the world connect with their soul, their intuition, heal their unconscious blocks, and embrace their true power and geniusness as they go through their soul's process of ascension. She utilizes quantum healing tools such as theta healing, access conscious, and quantum hypnotherapy to support you in connecting with your soul's purpose, passion, power, prosperity, and creating a life and business of your dreams while sharing your gifts with the world. Because after all, folks, it is about sharing your gift with the world. Welcome back, Kimberley.
Thank you, Sarah. I am so happy to be here again with you.
Well, you've written a book, and kudos to you, because I haven't even started mine. I was meant to have it finished by March. So just where does the time go? But it's a compilation of the clients and the work that you do.
Yeah, I'll share the story. It's actually been, gosh, the past 2 years have really kind of melded, haven't they?
Oh, they have. Been quite a roller coaster.
It wasn't supposed to be a book, right? So what happened? Well, I always knew that I would write a book, but this wasn't the book that I intended to write. Okay, it kind of wrote itself. And so what happened was during the lockdown, I decided that I would take the past life regression module out of my transpersonal hypnotherapy training, and I would put it online, and that I would create some video content, and I'd record some sessions so that as well as the live training, there was plenty of video content for people. So that was my aim. And then I did about 30 hours of video sessions, obviously with the client's permission. Some of the people that I knew, so they weren't clients, but the people that were interested, and so they agreed that they would love to have a session, and they would allow me to record. So that was amazing. Some amazing information came through, which was lovely. And then as I got the recordings transcribed and was editing them, I kept getting the nudge that it wanted to be a book.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay then. And so it's been quite the process, right? I mean, we've been through a whole kind of like birthing process anyway, haven't we, collectively, for the past 2 years. But yeah, so it's kind of the recordings were done in I don't know what year that they've done. 2021 or 2021. Or the end of 2020. Some I think I started the end of 2020. Anyway, so it's been quite the journey, and I'm really happy and excited to be birthing this baby.
Yes, yes, yes. Quite exciting to kind of write a book. And as you said, you hadn't intended to write this kind of book, and it was something that nudge, nudge, wink, wink, this is the book you have to write. But it's also in the process of it, it takes a life on its own, and kind of, no, this is the story that needs to be told, and this direction. And if we kind of allow ourselves to be guided, what needs to come out in the book is guided out of you to put in the book, right?
For sure. I mean, I'm very sure that it was kind of set up, in terms of, from the spirit world, in terms of, this is, it was more than I had originally intended, but I'm sure that it was completely guided and set up in terms of the information that came through. And
it's also the timing of things, is that there's been a huge awakening. I was given a saying 4 years ago, over 4 years ago now, the universe is going to shake us up, to wake us up, for us to change it up, step up and change it up, and grow up to a high vibration, grow up as a humanity. And we've certainly been shaken up, but things have to get shaken up, for us to understand what we need to stand up for, and what needs to be changed, and where we need to grow the energy. And so, disasters or pandemics or any crisis in the world, there's always a kind of a reason behind it, isn't there? It's always, we think it's a setback, but in many ways it's a propelling forward.
Yeah, it's been very much an initiation, hasn't it? And I'm hesitating to say it, but I think for a lot of people have experienced dark night of the soul in the past 2 years.
Yes.
And in some ways, I feel that, this whole past 2 years has been, that journey has been for a lot of people, that dark night of the soul, but also for others, there's been challenges in so many different ways. And yet from the challenges and from the shadow, because, it's triggered a lot of shadow within people, all of our stuff's coming up, all of our stuff around security, survival, everything's been up for people, right? And so it's just really, as you say, it's kind of like a springboard to catapult people really into a greater awareness, and into ultimately a higher vibration, which is what our planet has been wanting,
desperately needing. I mean,
Yeah.
Mother Earth is so out of balance, and it's because there's just been too uneven balance of negativity. And, it's not just as simple as just positive thoughts and I'll be happy. There has to be positive action. And that intent of action has to come from the soul, the heart, and the spirit, not just saying it in the head and doing opposite. Our actions, it is our actions that speak louder than words. And we have to step into this higher vibration of loving kindness and empathy, and compassion towards one another, because that is literally what's going to glue the earth back together. It's what's going to rebalance things. So I think having a global pandemic, when there's been so much suffering on so many levels, some people have become complacent about it, some people have become jaded, but some people have become far more compassionate and empathic about it, where they've really stepped up. And that really was the invitation, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, I'm sure. And so much change, because sometimes we get kind of stuck in our ways, don't we? And so I think for a lot of people it's been like an impetus in terms of kind of either going deeper into their spiritual purpose and their passion, or the start of that kind of awakening, and being curious and looking around, so it's a huge wake-up call, a wonderful initiation for us to kind of move forward in a more positive way. And we are in, I was very kind of curious about the book, because I was trying to kind of get it all ready last year, and it became apparent. First of all, I was blaming myself, and then it became apparent to me. I was like, okay, so what is going on? No, it actually wants to be out in 2022. You know, I had to surrender to that process.
Yes, it had to
Yeah.
wait for the tiger year, because the tiger year is about progress, where the
Yeah.
ox year is about steady as you go, no fast movements, you know, and
Yeah.
it needed to be in a year which was about propelling, which, you know, the
Yeah.
tiger is about action. Yeah, it has its naps, you know,
Yeah.
it's quiet time. And then when it's awake, it's just like a kitty, it's playing, it's, you know, it wants attention. So this is obviously the time you had to wait for it to come out for was that tiger year.
Yeah. And I, you know, like the energy right now,
Mm.
is we've just had in bulk, so kind of like the spring and the seeds being planted,
Mm-hmm.
and we kind of just, there's very much higher energies coming in. I mean, we're always saying there's higher energies coming in and higher, and you know, but it's like the frequencies and the energies are getting much stronger, and people are kind of, you know, more and more people are waking up quite, you know, in kind of like droves, if you like.
Yeah.
So as all that energy is heightening, it feels very synchronistic.
Yes.
That, because often I've done things and, you know, my logical head will think, you know, like what date, but what tends to happen for me with lots of my creative projects or training courses, I notice that I end up, oh well, I'm teaching, that's interesting, I'm teaching on this date again. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, for me, it's like a Celtic wheel of the year.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
my ancestral roots, right? So it's
Yes.
very interesting. And I was like, okay, well, it's in bulk on the first. And then we've got the 2-2-22 portal
Right. Yes.
through until the 22-22. So wonderful energies. Yeah, the Chinese New Year, the in bulk, the spring seeds, and it feels just very now. So
Yes.
it's very, you know, it's so interesting when we kind of, our ego or our mind is trying to control, and then, you know, try and be professional and try and, you know, and it's like, okay, just have to surrender.
Yes.
So it really
Yes.
is divine grace, you know, in the way that it's come around and the way that it's kind of being birthed right now.
I'm always given a word for the year. My word for this year was ignite.
Yeah.
You know, ignition, actually, and it's like put yourself into gear. You know, it's right. You could start the year off in first gear, but there are going to be many opportunities where you can get into fifth gear this year and really propel forward. And then, you know, all right, you may have a traffic jam and you have to slow down, or flat tire and you have to stop for a moment, but then you can get back on the road and get back into fifth gear again. And I really do feel that about the energy this year, is that this is the time to ignite what you want to happen, or what needs to happen in your life. You know, we may want, but the universe knows what we need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not always the same.
Yeah. A friend of mine actually came out with this beautiful expression of allowing the universe to have its way with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And I was like, kind of that kind of sounds quite exciting, actually, doesn't it? Actually, it's just much less stress if you just surrender to the process and stop trying to resist and push and fight it. So it's all about, I think, again, this is coming back to the 2022, and for that, as you were saying about, you know, Mother Earth, for us to come back into balance with ourselves, with the earth, with one another. And it is about, you know, it's not about the mind, it's about being present, having that embodiment of living in harmony with nature and with the cycles of nature and going with the flow. You know, we've been so having a discussion the other day with a friend. We were talking about time and how sometimes, you know, we kind of like struggle with time, and we know that there is no time, you know.
Right, yes, that's a human linear thing. Yes,
but this whole time space, and it we were just like, wow, you know, there's so much around time and how we define ourselves and in our language, and you know, it's kind of like everything is geared up around time. And this is almost like we've been out of time, sort of in suspense, right? And we're still kind of in no time, right? Because we're recreating and dreaming the world that we're creating. So it's still in that birthing process. But yeah, it's so interesting.
Well, I mean, if you think about the last 2 years, so much of life has been put on hold. Right. And we needed that pause. We needed that reflection. We needed to look at what was important in our lives. And so many people have taken new directions. Yes, we've lost a lot of souls. And there's been a lot of strain and mental strain put and financial strain put on humanity. But this was that shakeup that needed to happen to reset, repivot, to move forward. You know, there was no point in having the momentum of energy to move forward until people were ready to move forward and recreate. We don't want them going back to doing what they were doing before. We want them to step up into that higher consciousness, right?
Yes.
That higher empathy, that higher compassion,
Yeah.
that higher meaningful purpose, and now put themselves in gear to pursue that, because whatever they were doing 2 years ago is mentally, physically, spiritually, and in every way out of date. Because there's a hell of a lot of change that's happened for the good. And I think this year is going to really reveal where the good is, where a lot of people are still caught up in the struggle. But as we come out of that right now with the wind behind our backs, and we can step into less struggle and more, fortifying, I think then people will actually begin to see really the why it was all meant to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. And it was interesting because, when I started to try and put the book together, my logical brain was like trying to structure it, so we'll take people on a journey. Most people think about, past life regression and then life between lives, and some people know about that. And then, we went into future lives and galactic lives.
Yes,
and
but I love that. I read that little bit. Oh, intriguing. Yeah.
I know it. And so it was really like a wild journey. It was exciting for me. Sometimes I felt like almost I was at the cinema.
Yes, yeah.
I was like, this should be made into a film. When I tried to structure it, thinking, well, we'll start off with past life regression, and then we'll move into the life between lives, and then we'll go into the future lives, and then the galactic. But of course, each individual session, I think there was maybe one that was like really straightforward, past life regression.
Right. Yeah.
And then all of the others were like, start with the past life, then we go in between lives, and then we go into another life. And then it's like, wow, okay. And then it was like there was just like one chapter that was a simple chapter. The rest of them kind of I can't say it was past life or it was life between lives, because we went into all of them.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's there's the common thread with all of them. I kind of feel I'm finally catching up with my future life. It's like I'm doing a full circle. I'm coming into why I came here, what I was sent here to do. I'm coming back into that full circle of reconnecting in my future self, which is not very far away, into doing what I was meant to do when I first came here, that kind of lost track through the millennial. So it's I think in that awakening right now is that people who are looking into their future selves, and reading a little bit in the book there that I had time to do, is that she wasn't from this planet, she was observing. And it's I think the observers are going to reveal themselves a lot more, because clearly as humanity we really do need some outside help, because we've been begging people to do the inside out job, and many have, but many haven't. And it's their anger and angst that's still causing that heavy vibration. And I think we're going to need that kind of realization that we are not alone, and that they're not all out here to eat us, and that there is the guidance system there for us, should we embrace it. And I think we should embrace it.
It's interesting when everybody has different beliefs and different experiences, because Ascension or your soul's journey is it's a journey, it's a process, right?
Yes.
And we all start, like I was I don't know if it was lucky, but I was waking up quite early, to a degree. And then also there's been other levels of my journey and awakening to more and more and more. But I was waking up very early, really, and suddenly, but in quite a gentle way, because some people don't wake up gently, they kind of wake up and it's like everything's going on and they kind of think they're going crazy.
Yes.
Right. And I had a little bit of that in the beginning, but not completely, so just to if anybody's listening and they're kind of like, they think that they're mad.
No, darling, you're just awakening.
You're probably not.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in that space, what I would say is to get some support.
Yes. Yes.
Because it can be quite full on for some people. Yeah.
It's also the confusion, for me, that I was always the spiritual being having a hard human life, where I was mad was as a human. The human couldn't cope with what was going on. The spirit could. But for people, you need to be around that higher energy that can help you manage your own energy, your own revelation of who you are and what you're here to do, your own awakening, because we need to know what our compass is. And when our core is ignited, that core is our guidance symbol. And somebody needs to help us just understand what that core is, how to listen to it, how to tap into our own beautiful sources of energy that will guide us forward. And it's got nothing to do with, I think madness is humanity as just humans. Forget about the human beings, but just humanity is madness. But when we can become the human being, we're in that higher consciousness, we've stepped into that higher beautiful purpose, then I think we truly actually understand why we're here, what we're here to do, and who we really are.
Yeah, and so when you were talking about the guides in the book and in the sessions that I did, sometimes we were in past lives or between, sometimes future life, and sometimes guides coming in. And also we looked at, the multidimensional aspect of us. So, and that could mean different things to different people.
Yes.
I remember that when I first started seeing and hearing the spirit world, I kind of had, their guides. And then I had past life experiences, and I kind of thought, well, that's interesting because I had a past life. I've got strong connections with the Native Americans, and I had a Native American chief that showed up quite early on. And and kind of like a whole, I remember one time having this experience, and there were about probably 6 or 7, I don't know if I shared this last time, but anyway, 6 or 7 Native American chiefs. I was getting the names, I could see them all lined up, and I saw myself like my hands behind my back, tied. I felt like I had something down my throat, and I was kind of like all wrapped up and stuff. But I thought, well, that's that one's Sue, that one's Sue, that one's Sue. And I'm like, they're all Sioux. I'm sure they're all Sioux chiefs. And then later on, I had to kind of like look up and thought, yeah, I'm right, they are. And so that was like, I ended up doing a soul retrieval for myself, getting my hands untied, calling myself reverence back. And then it was only actually, I think it was last year or the year before, I connected with somebody new on Facebook, and we kind of like chatted, and she said to me that, I can't even remember, what's the name for it now? Anyway, I wasn't quite sure about that experience. I knew I had these connections, but I wasn't sure kind of what that was. And she said, you were a shaman, and they used to do a healing ritual where they bound the shaman up. Right? So she said it was most probably that was what you saw. And she did tell me the name, and I just can't think of it right this minute.
Because you weren't afraid, right?
No, but I was just like, oh, I need to untie myself. That was my first instinct with it, know. But it didn't, because I had all these chiefs, so I had plenty of support, and I knew that everything was great, But I was like, okay, so let me just untie myself. And then I spoke with her, and just online, on Facebook, and she said, oh, I think you were one of these.
Yeah, because if you were a captor, a captive, you would have been afraid.
Yeah.
Right. So if you didn't have any fear there, I didn't know that they used to bound the shamans. I suppose that was kind of bounding the human body so the spirit could rise. As they did with the sweat lodges and everything else. Those were the epiphanies, etc. And what is kind of sad is in many, many ways, we've done away with the things that can allow our spirit to come forth. It's become hooey. I was watching a program last night where they've made somebody talk about ascension, coming into the higher self as a cult and evil. Now they've made it an evil thing where, the people will all die instead of ascending, which they ascend, but the body dies. We want people to ascend alive. You don't have to die to ascend into your higher self. And it's sad that they still keep portraying it that way because they put fear in people. But it's
Well, there's
allowing
so
your
many
spirit to come forth.
so many religious beliefs, aren't there? And I
Mm,
think that's part of what we're moving more. We've always had kind of this shift from religion to spirituality, but we're
yes.
actually moving more into understanding ourselves
Yeah.
as spiritual beings. Not that we have to float up on a fluffy cloud to become
Right.
enlightened or
Oh,
to ascend, but that we are already, the ascension process is simply a process of enlightenment
yeah.
and unifying
Mm-hmm.
our energies, right? And
Yes.
so there's so much, isn't there, around ascension and all kinds of things that sometimes people, the biggest thing I think, and I've always felt this, was that we meditate and it's lovely to meditate and you kind of feel like you're up here somewhere, and all blissed out, but really we're here for a purpose. We
Yes.
chose to come here, and that was to bring like heaven to earth and to anchor the light
Yes.
in the
And be
earth.
the
and
light. Be
and
the light.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and also that conduit, because
Yes.
we're kind of like stars, right?
Mm,
And so it's like we are conduits for the light to come through us, to anchor into the earth, into the crystal grids, and to light up and help support Mother Earth in her ascension process.
yeah.
So we're all kind of like ascending together. Yeah.
Well, this is why actually the tiger is water here too. It's a water
Mm,
tiger. And of course, water is a wonderful conduit. It's
yeah.
a beautiful place of energy and finding yourself. And, it's just, for me, breeze, trees, and water are exceptionally important.
Yes. Yeah.
I am an air sign, so of course I need the breeze. I need to constantly be in flow. I cannot
Mm,
be contained. Trees are that very life force that will always speak to you. And of
mm,
course, water is that peace for me. I can lay on that water. I just feel that loving spirit just embrace me.
mm,
And so we in our own little self-discovery, we need to kind of understand, where is our connection?
mm,
What is it? Some people, are fire, some people are earth, some people are, different elements. And it's like, okay, well, you are that element. That is the element in which you are meant to conduct yourself. But, it's discovering our purpose here. And that purpose isn't to be the top CEO and six figures and drive the
mm,
Maserati. That purpose is how are you here to serve humanity, serve Mother Earth, serve all living
mm,
things on this earth, to ascend and connect with the universe. And if
yeah.
we allow ourselves to open up to that and go, make that discovery of what our connection is, it's revolutionary, and it reveals truly the inner beingness of who we are, which is a wonderful essence just been waiting to come out.
Yeah. I love that you're talking about the elements, because I was, this is part of our process as well, because,
Mm-hmm.
we are, although we say, like I'm Aquarian, so I'm quite air sign, but I'm also Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
So, people have different, they think that they're more air or they're more water, or, I'm quite watery as well.
Yes,
And
yes, I'm air and
we
water.
actually have all of that within us, right?
Yes, we do.
Because there's a beautiful Native American song, which is like, earth my body, air my breath. Wow. I'm not going to sing it.
Go on, sing it.
No. It's like earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. So although we might have a leaning towards a certain one or two
Right.
elements, right, we have them all within us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so it's
And
balancing and
yeah.
harmonizing all of those elements within us.
And there's
Yeah.
generally always going to be one that is your dominant, it's your
Yeah.
lead, right? But
Yeah.
it's not at the the expense of the others, because the others are there to serve whatever the higher sign is,
Yes.
right? To
Yes.
balance that up. And it's, it's what we have seen in spiritual awakenings. No, you've got to wake your spirit this way. And really kind of a replacement for religion,
Yeah.
just calling it a different name, not using the Bible, using something else, and it's still been restrictive. And when you are in spirit, there are no walls, there are no boundaries, there are no borders. It is just simply a beautiful divine energy that will go where it needs to go.
Yes. And it doesn't, it's not about religion. It's not about, this faith or that faith. It's about spirituality, and that spirituality is, you know, seen in all faiths and religions.
Yes.
You know, I've always loved religions and cultures, and found that they all have such amazing, beautiful threads, you know.
Yes, they do. Be
And so,
misconstrued along the way.
yes, yes.
Yeah. But the
And
common
it's like, you
denominator
know,
of what they are. Yeah.
yeah, we're all human, we all have a heart, right? So
Yes.
it's like so much we've been taught to look at, you know, what makes us different. We're all individual and unique, and yet we're all family.
Yeah.
And that is really what we're coming into, isn't it? As we're kind of moving forward, is to recognize that we are family, that we share and we support one another and collaborate, and, you know, all of that beautiful gifting and receiving with one another.
Yes.
And again, I think that's come out over the past couple of years.
Mm.
So, I mean, in the sessions, what, you know, some of the insight and the wisdom that came through from star beings.
Yes.
You know,
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Have you learned anything from these sessions? Please do share.
Well, you know, it's like there always brings so much love and energy that you can, you know, you can feel the energy. And so as I'm facilitating the session, I'm also perceiving, sometimes seeing, or sometimes hearing, or feeling, and it's always a beautiful energy. And you know, it's not, there's wisdom that comes through, obviously, from the client's higher self and from, you know, the higher beings, and it's about how we put that into practice. So there's always something around, you know, some wisdom, some healing for the physical body, understanding about certain situations in their life, or, you know, what people were learning from a certain lifetime, why the higher self showed them that particular lifetime and this one, and what's that about. That's all wonderful. But often there are healing activations, and there is also you know, this thing about really anchoring and embodying, and like what the practical action, because a lot of people are completely fascinated with all of the stuff, and, you know, I am too, and it is about this lifetime, right, on Earth.
Yes.
As in
why you're here now.
Well, yes, and I'm saying that, right, and then I'm going to go into like the multidimensional bit. All right, so bear with me, some of you might have different experience or beliefs around this. So in the beginning, my experience was, you know, I would see certain spirit guides, and I very quickly connecting with what we might, and actually I didn't call them ascended masters then. I was connected with what the beings told me, that they would tell me they were beings of light, you know, over and over again. We are beings of light, we are beings of light. And I'm like, yeah, okay, and like, well, who are you, right? And because I was learning to channel at that time, so I realized rather than have to wait for the whole thing, I had to start speaking what I had.
Right.
And then they would give more information, and so I knew them as beings of light. Sometimes I would get other information, and I knew that they were the Brotherhood of Light. They would call themselves the Brotherhood of Light. And then I've worked with the Rose lineage, and you know, and many ascended masters. But you know, more and more, I realised that actually that some of those were wonderful guides, and more as we're going through this process, that actually there isn't, well, we know this, there's no time. We talked about that, right? No time. Everything is now.
Yes.
So people tend to think about past lives as in that's your past. This is your present, and that's your future. Or sometimes people have a different timeline that runs that way. So that's their past, this is present, and that's in the future. Okay, so there's no time. It's all happening now. So actually, we are that past life. We're this personality. In fact, it's the same soul, but different personalities, right? And different bodies. So past, present, and future.
Right.
And that includes a future lifetime on another planet.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because, you know, some of you might understand. Some people will know this, some people won't. But, you know, it's like we weren't kind of birthed necessarily through the earth. In our physical body, we've come through the earth. Our soul has come from source, and through that process, we've had lifetimes on other planets, and we've come through other stargates. And so we may have connections with Sirius, we may have connections with Lyra, or Venus, or Pleiades, or where, you know, Arcturians. So through these journeys, what was really interesting, there was so much synchronicity. One woman went through several different bodies. And the night before the session, I'd gone down to the garden to check my butternut squash, which weren't doing very well. The birds ate them, I think, or the slugs. And while I was there, I kind of heard this noise, and I looked down and I thought, oh, it's a cricket, right? And so I was like, oh, hello, Mr. Cricket, and didn't think anything of it. And then the next day I did this session, and this beautiful lady, she went into different lives and things started changing, and we asked the higher self to show her, you know, multidimensional aspects. So that's what happened.
Yes.
She went on this amazing journey, and her body kept changing.
Yeah.
So she started off as one being, and then she became a Tibetan monk, and then she had a dragonfly and a fairy, and all of these different aspects were showing up, which was so amazing. That one part was that she said, I'm going to look. I think she was in space, and she was looking to see what her body looked like, and she said, oh, I think it's a cricket. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. and then she said then it shifted, and she was a praying mantis. But it was like, that was so funny, because the day before I'd seen this cricket, right? And there was a couple of other things that happened. One, which is videoed, I nearly spat my cup of tea out. You have a drink with me, because I'm talking a lot and my voice will go. And as it went like that, and she came out with this name, and I was like, oh gosh, I had that name the other day.
From someone else? Or
no, it was just like in my head. And then I was like, that's really interesting, because it's a very unusual name. And I was like, wow. And so, you know, all these synchronicities, and it's like, you know, sometimes when I'm working with clients, I'm aware before they come to me of something, you know, and yes. Then oh, that's why I was getting
you're tuned into them, right? Yeah. The channel is open. Yeah. And, you know, as far as multidimensional, I have so many memories that are very, very real, that haven't taken place on this earth, right? So not at this time, or they've taken place somewhere else, and I have some very clear recollections of a couple of beings of who I was, and the original dominant being that came here, and it's always when I am present in all of these other dimensions, is like you're seeing your life through the universal's eyes. You're not seeing it through the human eyes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when I do manage to get up into the universe, and once that beautiful nothingness and everythingness is that I am a part of the universe, I'm part of that beautiful silence and abundance. And I'm seeing it, but it's again not in human form. And I mean, it's very hard for people who haven't kind of done any of that to understand when we leave our body, you know, but it's always, this body is a vessel for this lifetime, for the soul to travel and experience in. So when I go out of body, in this dimension, we
might have a different body.
Yes.
In another dimension.
And there's clearly a couple of dimensions I remember being much happier in the body than in this one. But it's, as I said, the full circle for me is that I've had so much suppression in the past lives. Torn and quartered, the vow of poverty, just complete repression for many lifetimes, that this was my lifetime of rebirth into purpose without persecution.
Yes. Oh gosh, I'm so glad you said that, because that's one of the things for a lot of spiritual people, and I know you have a lot of spiritual people that are listening to your show. I work a lot with spiritual people, spiritual entrepreneurs, and I mean, we're all spiritual. That's just a phrase that we use, but I mean,
awakened people.
Yeah, and we're all awakened to lesser or greater. All these names that we use to define things. It's sometimes they can get used to divide as well. So
yes.
I'm just saying, people that are more aware and familiar with this, you know, what we're talking about here and other experiences. And what were we talking about? Persecution, right? And so the other day I saw, it was on the BBC news thing online. I don't listen to it. Sometimes I like to look and see what's going on online. And there were a certain number of witches, a lot of witches in Catalonia, that the Spanish had pardoned for being persecuted and put to death in one form or another, right? And then somebody sent me a link for one in Scotland. So Scotland also have pardoned the witches, and it just felt very emotional and very powerful.
Pardoned with an apology.
Oh yeah, sorry we killed you, right?
Yes,
we realised
exactly.
now that you weren't bad, you were actually good.
Yes.
And you had a bit more awareness than we did.
Yes, exactly. and we didn't want you sharing that awareness because religion was all about control.
Yeah,
right?
We didn't want you to be empowered.
No,
right?
Exactly.
But this is the thing, for many years I worked as a medium in spiritualist churches, and that was great. And people would want to know answers to, what they should do with this situation or what was going to happen in the future. And to me, that was more about proof of survival for people, bereaved people and so forth, and the spiritual teachings that would come through. And so I stepped back, and there was other reasons why I stepped back, but I stepped back. Quite a lot of it was that I had actually I didn't want people to become dependent on me telling them what was going to happen, and that wasn't kind of my thing, really. I'm great at seeing the future as it happens, but it's about giving them that empowerment to connect with their own intuition, to connect with spirit, and to heal, these subconscious blocks and these kind of past life traumas and so forth, so that we can be more empowered and in the body here and now, and having, more happier, peaceful, joyful lives.
Yes. I've stopped reading myself occasionally for a couple of old friends or colleagues I will, but it's because really it's I'm telling you where you're at right now and why you're there, but what path lays before you. But it's not about the path of opportunity that lays before you, but what heart, soul, and mindset do you need to be in order to walk that path? All I can do is wake up the awareness in you, show you what is optional or what is possible, but you've got to take everything in and become in order to walk that path and see those possibilities and be a part of them. And from a lot of the time, it's like, no, tell me exactly what to do. No, it's I'm telling you what to be, because when you be, you will know what to do.
Exactly.
And some people are ready for it and some people aren't. And I just found I've been doing this almost 10 years now. This took over my life completely. Because I get to share the wisdom and the wonders of people like you, who are out there far more seasoned than I am in this realm. And that's become the more meaningful purpose. And I hate the word fortune teller, right? It's like, no, we're just seers. I still see. I can be in the middle of a show and see something for somebody and I have to share it. It just, it comes out because it's something I'm seeing. But I just don't do it in that format anymore. I have an energy show on this week too with Drew McCartney, and he's talking about is all elevating our energy level up to a high frequency and higher vibration. And when we step into that higher frequency of vibration, we understand compassion, empathy, love. We understand more of our purpose. We understand how that energy coming together is so utterly empowering to others, and also how healing it is to our body, because most disease is dis-ease of imbalance in our body with our hearts, souls, and minds. And if we can step up into that higher vibration, we have that equilibrium within us. So there is less illness. And the energy is just beautiful healing. And then when you step into that energy plane, you will find that you'll be able to channel a particular thing. That is your instrument. That is your gift to share. But you apply it to yourself first, because it's you being that helps others, just like it has been for you. You're not doing, you're being.
I mean, let's say that I am sometimes doing with human beings.
You're doing from the beingness. Yes. It's not just doing for the sake of doing, it's your being is doing. So it's a different energy source.
I am blessed, and I have chosen to do things that I loved. I've had amazing jobs, going years back. I've had amazing jobs that I loved and were a great training ground. Always in kind of social care, counselling, and teaching, and so forth. But having that freedom to kind of, because there aren't jobs really for healers and shamans and channels. We create our jobs, right?
But I think I think in the next decade we're going to see that change quite considerably.
Oh well, it's here, right?
Yeah, it is here, and I think we're going to see it more recognized.
Yeah, it's not something that you can get paid to do. I remember many years back, I worked in a prison, and there was a chaplain, and I thought, oh, how amazing! She gets paid. And she got like a mortgage, they kind of pay their mortgage for them and stuff. So she got a home and a mortgage paid and a salary. And I was like, well, I could do that. That would be nice if I could, as a medium, go in.
Yes, exactly.
you know. So, but so this is, I think, a lot of people now as well. That shift between actually, I don't really like what I'm doing, and so a lot of people, since they've been working from home and things have changed in the past 2 years, are actually coming back into much more connection with their soul and their joy and what they would love to be doing, and so change is happening, and that's wonderful. But some of the beings that came through were many of what we'd call ascended masters. So there was kind of, I'm sure who showed up, there's so many, but there's a couple of journeys where people went to Egypt. So there were, we've got kind of like one session where there was Anne and Mary Boleyn, something to do with the execution. Now, and I'll share about this, because a lot of people have a past life, and they may think that they were, but they may have a past life regression session or an experience, and they may think that they were that person, right? And not necessarily so. Okay, so some people kind of are skeptical about it, and there are lots of different theories around past life regression, which I go into in the book more, but really it can be a number of things. So there's something that is called imprinting, which is that it may be that when we come into this lifetime, we might need, because we have this kind of like veil, don't we, when we come in, we don't generally tend to recollect everything, and our past life stuff. And so when we come in, sometimes it may be that we've had imprints from the Akashic records of other lifetimes. So for example, one of my experiences, which happened a couple of times, I remember in a session, and I thought, this girl, I was sobbing and sobbing. And my name was Mary. I think I was doing something around weight at the time. Not supposed to be doing past life. But anyway, I'm in this thing, I'm sobbing and sobbing. And she said, what's your name? I said, I'm Mary. And then she said, what's happening? And I said, I'm waiting for my Lord on the cross. And part of me, because when you're in trance, there's that part of you that's the unconscious, and then the conscious mind is just kind of like hopefully parked in the background, depending how far back in the background or how far forward, and it kind of trance state varies. So I'm sobbing and wailing, can't stop myself. I'm thinking, Kim, you weren't Mary Magdalene or Mother Mary, and you better get out of this, because she's not going to know what to do with you.
Right.
Yeah. And so that was interesting. And then another time, and that would have been like a few years later, I was on a training course and was doing some theta healing, and I felt like I was Jesus on the cross. Well, I knew that I wasn't Jesus, right? But that was my experience, and I thought, I'm on the cross, and I need to get myself off the cross. She's a young girl, bless her, and I was like really emotional, and I remember saying, to Diana, I was like, am I mad?
It's the empathy. And that's the thing, is that when you are in a state of real true love, when you're really resonating from that love vibration, you can't knowingly hurt anyone, because you're hurting anyone who's only hurting you. You feel the pain of others. So when you're looking at Jesus on the cross and you're feeling his pain, when you're looking at Mary, wailing, feeling the pain, we are all part of that same energy. So we're experiencing the pain from that energetic field, not because we are essentially the person.
Yeah. And also because, we have different soul groups and different spiritual lineages. So, I do feel very much connection with the Essenes and with Jordan and Damascus, and so I do feel I could have been around in those times. And sometimes the ego's like, well, really, But you know, I do feel that quite strongly. And if we're in these soul groups, then that energy, it's like the ancestral energy is in our veins, in our DNA, right? And so is our spiritual lineage. And so there may be certain masters or certain guides, you know. I know that I've had Native American lifetimes. I know I've had Egyptian lifetimes, you know. And so there are certain things that come into our awareness. But yeah, it's just very interesting. So, you know, and it's, you know, so what happens is, even though you might think, well, that wasn't a past life as such, you know, and for sure, I've done regressions for a fair few people now. I don't know how many in terms of numbers. I'm sure we're probably about, I don't know, probably 1,000 over the years, right, in some form or another. And so basically, it isn't necessarily that we were that person, but it doesn't mean that we're making it up.
No.
Because very often our conscious mind will go, well, that's not, you know, I'm my father. And people sometimes can be a little bit hesitant, and they're saying, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I'm not seeing anything, or, you know, and then we kind of do a bit more work and they see a bit more. And because the conscious mind in the background, the ego is coming up, you know, saying, you couldn't have been this, or you couldn't have been that, you know, little old me couldn't be this.
Doubt.
Yeah. So it's so interesting. But, you know, the thing is that whatever the experience, whether it's a true past life or not, right? It can be, you know, it could be this imprinting. For whatever reason, the higher self always has a reason why it's shown them that.
Right.
So sometimes things are symbolic, but there's kind of like that beautiful, really powerful imagery and symbolic experience that their unconscious understands and actually feels and gets transformation from that experience.
And it may not make sense in the time, right? It's kind of a download that we needed to have in our psyche, that experience, and we may not understand why at that time, but it will maybe manifest itself later, or it's just simply part of something that your entire psyche needed to have, you know, as part of your toolkit, so to speak. You know, I live in Canada, a great deal of Native Americans. I've never been drawn to that, but when we went to South Africa, I was drawn to the African nation. And we had an African spirit that came to us all the time, and I really felt, oh, I have definitely been this in a past life. But for me, a great deal of Celtic and Europe. But I've always been drawn to America, but not as a Native American. But I've had a couple of hundred lifetimes removed from me where they had the hold on me. And it doesn't mean I'm dismissing them. It means I'm releasing the trauma that they had on me, because literally was unable to move forward. I had this brick wall in front of me all the time. I could never get through it, round it, under it, or anything, couldn't blast it. And so once those lifetimes were gone, that wall was gone. And I now had that free will to move forward.
Yeah, and to maybe for people listening, kind of like a lot of the times those lifetime memories are in our DNA or in our morphogenetic field, right? And they're in our subconscious, and so then they can create blocks. So for example, if you've been persecuted, then like a lot of the people that I work with, healers, so forth, they've had lifetimes where they've been persecuted, and then they're really struggling to get their business and to be visible because there's this really huge subconscious block about, you know, people are going to judge them, that you know, they don't,
you're waiting
they're going to be killed, but that's what's going on.
No, you're waiting for the persecution to come in some form or other. And I had found a vow of poverty 50 lifetimes ago, and you know, for me that is like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense, because the battle in this lifetime to make money, you know, is always been extremely hard. I don't have a fear of money. I know exactly where I seed it and what I do with it, but it's always been kind of through the open fingers. And it's that vow of poverty thing kind of still, you know, and it's, I don't know whether it's subliminal or it's still got that part in the DNA, but I didn't know about that until a few years ago. I mean, I couldn't understand why you know, it wasn't happening. So
that's where a lot of spiritual people have a conflict between spirituality and money. You know, and again, this is down to some of the religious programming as well, because, you know, People think that if you're doing something spiritual that you shouldn't charge, or some people think that, right? But you know, like, we're living in a 3D reality where at the moment we're using money, and you know, that might change, right?
Yeah.
In the past, we've used shells for money, and conkers, and that goodness knows what else, you know,
or
beads
barter
and things.
system, right?
Yeah. So it's just a form of exchange, right? But yeah, it's so ingrained.
Yes.
I think a lot because of the programming, and because of, like you say, most of the times when there's vows around money, most often it's to do with religious vows around money, you know, like a vow of poverty, or
Yeah.
you know, we have
And
vows
this
of
one,
chastity.
I will say this one definitely, you know, took its hold on me. And people say, why don't I charge for my shows? And I say, everything is for the listener and the person participate is donation. And I leave it up to them as to what they think it's worth to them. And that I'm comfortable with. You're going to pay me for the value of what the show has done for you. And that was easier for me, because I thought there's no point in me pushing against this feeling that was so utterly kind of crippling in many ways. And I've had a few people try and get rid of it. And it was like, okay, compromise. I'm not anti-money in any way, but I'll let the money come to me through its own divine source from those that open up to it and of free will wish to give it.
Yeah. That's interesting. My screen just changed in front of me, and I'm like, what's going on? It's got a mind of its own, but I think maybe it's nudging me, actually.
Is it nudging you to do anything in particular?
I think it's nudging me to read this poem that I talked to you about before we started, because it's just opened, it's just moved over. I'm like, oh, where's the screen gone? Yeah. So my face is quite expressive. So right, and now I'm reading, so I'm going to try and scroll down carefully. So this was, I'll share some of the story. Well, I'll share a little bit about this. It's kind of a deeper significance. So maybe I'll just share that, actually. So my father-in-law passed away about 10 days before Christmas. And I was thinking about, you know, like, what, you know, how are we going to organize funeral and so forth. And there's he was being cremated, and there is an oak tree in my garden. It's a smallish oak tree, and I was thinking about, you know, that some people have their ashes and they kind of like grow a tree.
Yes,
right?
Yes, that's what I'm going to do.
And so basically the birds had left, obviously seeded this oak tree. I remember putting a picture on Facebook saying, anybody know what this is? And it had gone in another pot. Anyway, it looked like an avocado. People kept saying it's an avocado plant. I don't think it is, you know. Anyway, it was an oak tree. Anyway, so that's like 4 years later, this oak tree. So while I was thinking about this, what happened was the oak tree started talking to me. And so this is what came through from the oak tree. So, I may look dead, but fear not, I am alive and well. For it is in the darkness of winter that I release and renew, that I fortify, embracing the quiet and the solitude, as I simply let go and go within. For hidden deep within, at the core of my being, is the light, the seed, the blueprint for my renewal and resurrection. For all of life dies only to be reborn. I, like you, am an infinite being of light. We are infinite love, for all of life is eternal. In the darkness and winter of life. In the darkness and winter of life. Send your roots down even deeper, connecting with the core of the earth. And you can do this now as you're listening. So sending your roots down deeper and deeper and deeper into the core of the earth. For the earth is our mother. Feel into your connection with all of life and all of nature. Send your light down and notice how our roots and branches are connected to each other. Send your light up. Beautiful open arms outstretched through each and every branch, and see how our branches almost touch. allow the soul light to flow through the network of roots and branches beneath the crystalline grids of Mother Earth. And as our hearts and souls unite, for our branches reach to the stars in heaven, reminding us of our true nature, our true home, our roots connecting with this ancient land and with our ancestors in whose footsteps we tread, as we remember to walk in unity and love as the beings of light that we are, brothers and sisters, one family, united we stand tall together, a circle of love embracing all of life. So that was the beautiful download that came from the tree.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the reason why I want to be planted with a tree. Whenever I go into a forest or go somewhere where the trees and the rustle of the leaves, there's just such a beautiful conversation. And, you know, it's not like having the English dialogue. It's, you know, it's the conversation that is really at the spirit and soul level. And they are just beautiful creatures, trees. They really are. They're an entity of their own. They're such a wonderful life source. I don't know if you've seen the Judi Dench documentary on trees.
Yes, I did.
I mean, yes.
Amazing.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And that essence of connection. And they don't care what kind of tree you are in the forest, or whether you're dead or alive, there's support for each other all the time. And as if we could look at ourselves as a human race as that forest. And we don't care what tree you are, how old you are, or whether you've crumbled and fall, because, you know, from your ashes comes new life, like the phoenix. If we could only look at that, then we would actually understand the true beauty of that unity, of that togetherness. And I think a forest can teach us a great deal.
So much, so much. I love the forest. I'm really blessed because here I live near to the New Forest with all the wild ponies. So most of the time I'm hanging out weekends in the forest with my camera. And love what you were saying about the trees, the fallen trees. We had an amazing, I have some little crystal elven skulls, and I went to dragons and I took them out to the forest to take some photos. And while we were there was this tree that was huge, and it looked a little bit like a skeleton of a dinosaur. It had all these branches and it had slightly fallen, you know, so, well, a lot had fallen. So it was kind of like horizontal with all these branches. And I was like, oh, it was like calling me. So when we'd finished with photographs, I said, oh, let's go and see what's in that tree. Now that tree had fallen. It was absolutely covered. I got a photo of it on my Facebook. Absolutely covered with mushrooms, different types of mushrooms.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, there's always life to come from a death. Yeah, that's the whole point. As the tree says, I'm not dead. I have gone in.
And the tree, the physical tree, the bark is like our body, our physical body. We are souls in a body, and the trees have a consciousness that's within that physical body, which is as a tree.
Yes.
Right? The same as crystals have a consciousness. So all these different planes or dimensions have different consciousness. So in the book, there were elves, there were fairies, dragons, leprechauns is coming in my head, but I didn't hear from any leprechauns actually.
Oh, that's the next book.
But there were lots of, you know, we had the star lions coming in, and, you know, many different amazing beings showing up, you know, and talking about, you know, so many of them were like a collective consciousness, you know. And so it's just like such a beautiful circle and community, you know, to have this connection not only with our higher self, but also with our soul family and our star family, and to recognize these multidimensional aspects of us, because, you know, we some of us have been here at the beginning of time, creation, right? There was one chapter that I've called, it was so hard to name the chapters because there was so much in them. So there was one that was about the creation of the galaxy. You know, it started out, you know, they were in space and we weren't quite sure where they were, and it was to do with the Milky Way and the galaxy being created. So there's some amazing, you know, we talked about future, and yes, you're rightly saying our future is not laid in stone, and everything is a probability. So we have sometimes, if you ever watch these movies called like Sliding Doors is one, and then of course there's Back to the Future.
Right.
So if we decide to do one thing, that could change the whole trajectory of our life.
Yes.
Right. Or we could do that, and then you could think, oh gosh, that's, you know, tricky, isn't it? That makes it hard to decide, right? But it's like you could make that decision, and then again you could make another decision, and that could go that way again, right? So one of the chapters, I remember this person being in an in-between life, and I kept inviting her to move forward. She wasn't having any of it. So she was talking about, which, you know I teach this stuff, but she was talking about, you know, the soul contract and the life between lives and the life review and so forth. And she was saying, well, I could do this, and they're saying I could do this, or I could do that, and I'm not sure. And it went on. And I said, so are you ready to make a decision now? She'll drum roll. Let's see what you decide. But then she went on and on again. But she was actually talking about the choices and like and being able to change tracks, right? And it was so funny because as she was describing it, what I was seeing was kind of like the London Tube and the Underground and all these different branches, right?
Which one do I take?
Yeah, it was like, you know, where you change over, changing
Yes.
tracks or changing stations, you see. So it was all quite, you know, interesting in terms of the way that it unfolded and my experience of it as well. So yeah, we have so many opportunities, and we always are at choice, and we can always change our current situation, and we can change our future.
Yes.
Yeah?
Nothing is carved in stone, and even if it's carved in stone, it's only a symbol. It doesn't mean you're carved in stone, you know. People are so afraid.
This is a part of who we are, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it is. It is.
And it's an important part. We've chosen to be here, and it's not
to
always
have
who
this
we are.
experience.
Yes.
For a reason. And, you know, I often kind of look upon Earth as the kindergarten, you know, or humans are in the kindergarten of, you know, of consciousness. And what we're asking people to now is graduate up a few more grades to that higher vibration, because I feel it's really become very, very imperative now that our connection to the universe is made. I think for the survival of Earth, but also to do with the equilibrium of the universe. And, you know, no longer are we just little earthlings crawling our way through existence, that it is the time of the higher ascension, of the higher cosmic intelligence, and that we need to be a part of it for a bigger reason.
And, you know, the thing that we were saying about a family, and when we go into the forest and we can see these beautiful animals and the trees and, you know, flowers and so forth, we've also got our family in our community. We've got soul family and star family. And, you know, it's not just for our evolution, not just for humanity's evolution and ascension, because every being is in this journey. So
we're all connected.
Other beings that are fifth dimensional are going to seventh dimension, and seventh are going to the ninth. So as we ascend, everybody's ascending together. So other beings,
that's the grow up.
Yeah, they want to support us, not interfere with us, right? They want to support us because their evolution depends upon that, you know. Like sometimes they'll serve us, as we say, we want to, you know, live our purpose, live our joy and our passion, and be of service. That's what's fulfilling to us, right? When we're doing what we love, and it's the same for them, you know. But we have to invite them, same as we have to invite the angels. They can't kind of interfere with our free will.
I've always, you know, I am about to write my book, and it's basically, you know, conversations with my angel about my life, you know, so my angel's view of my life and how hard it's had to work for me. But I don't know my angel's name because I always have angels around me with me in the middle. And it's I seem to connect with each one of them on different levels for different reasons at different times. And I don't have any one particular angel, but for the sake of the book, there will be. But it's You know, people, no, you've got to have an angel. You've got to have that. There is no gotta have. You know, you are given accordingly to whatever your particular dimensional frequency is and what you are here for. And you know, that is that surrender to what is, and take what is, you know, in your sharing out. And it's I think one of the things we need to stop looking at is that it's got to be compartmentalized, put in a nice little box and made sense of, and now that's what you know, that's religion. Right?
Yeah.
Spirituality, or which now scientists have measured those that live on a spiritual plane and know they actually resonate on a higher frequency. And they call it the love frequency, because people that choose to live actually in that love hertz, that love frequency, is resonating on a higher vibration, which again can't knowingly hurt anyone else because it's against the very grain of causing pain. And they're measuring that now, they're understanding that now, which is beautiful, because if you've got science behind you, then it just means that we can move forward a lot faster. The word quantum, you know, quantum physics used to be, now we talk about quantum spirituality and, you know, quantum consciousness. And we're beginning just to open up our minds, to open up our hearts and souls so much more now. And it really, there is, as I said, let's get into second and third gear. I like people should, you know, even trust getting up into that fifth gear. Don't go straight to fifth gear, please. Go through the gears, go through the gears. But it is kind of time to elevate, right?
You know, I think, yeah, it's funny, like, you know, don't go to bed, like, go to bed if you want to.
But for some people, if they want to go to first and fifth straight away, I want them to go through all the gears, so they understand
you know,
what to do in the fifth.
Yeah,
you know?
I know what you're saying, and I get what you're saying, and you know, there is a pathway and a process which which will give people more ease.
Yes.
Right. And having said that, you know, when it's the time for you to wake up, your soul will wake you up.
Oh yes,
one way
definitely.
or another.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There could be a nudge, wink, or a cosmic 2x4.
Yeah. And so, you know, lots of people are having fast awakenings.
Yes.
Now, and so this, you know, that it's kind of okay. But
well,
yeah,
that's why there's people like you there, for those people who don't understand what's happening to them. You know, you're there to help them understand what's happening to them, the gift that it is, and perhaps even to point forward where they're going with it.
I must have wings.
So that's the reason why I do these shows, is to bring people around like you that are there to help people, guide them through the process, through their own ascension, through their own awakening. And that's the reason why you've written this book.
Well, like I say, I kind of, you know, it's a very interesting experience to me. Obviously, I was facilitating the sessions, and my energy, you know, I spent hours and hours editing and all of that. And it was really interesting because there was a part of me that kind of felt like, well, it's not my book, you know, if I didn't write it. So I'm sure that there's more to come on that. I've got many channelings that I haven't published yet,
Right.
but I'm sure.
This was the introductory book. It was clearly the book that needed to be written at this time, because, you know, as people do awaken and get up into that higher gear, us talking about these things aren't so far-fetched. They may not be completely comprehended, but it's like, I kind of feel what you're saying, even if I may not understand what you're saying, right? And it's like, I can believe that this is possible. I may not be there yet, but I'm open to it. And so
there's more films, aren't there now? You know, I mean, I love like sci-fi stuff and so forth, but I mean, you know, that's real, right? And it's like, that's coming into the collective consciousness. Some of those people that have actually made those films are very connected spiritually, and I feel like
Avatar.
It's been gifted to help us to awaken. And you see, it's that more and more of that's coming, you know, on the TV and the movies, and people then begin to go,
must be.
And so then when you see things happening, you're kind of like, oh, okay, that's real.
Yes, like the Matrix. And there's a wonderful scene in Doctor Strange where his guru mentor pushes him out of this body and say, what do you think you are? Just flesh and bones. You know, and his spirit goes out and goes, oh my goodness, I can go anywhere in spirit. I can see anything and experience anything in spirit.
Yeah.
right? Don't limit yourself to the vessel,
Yeah.
to the body.
And that's the beauty of, like the hypnosis or the soul journeys. Sometimes I'm kind of doing group sessions and we'll do kind of like soul journey, and sometimes we'll go for healing, but that's where we're supposed to be going. Sometimes people go in different places, but we're going, for healing. Obviously when I'm doing one-to-one, people end up going wherever they kind of want to go anyway. But in a group, I normally have like a purpose, and the idea is that we all go there. There's some variations on it, but so it's just that to try and explain something and talk about something, we get it maybe on a conceptual level. But for me, the most important thing is for people to have their own experience.
Yes.
And really get it in their body, in their heart, really truly connect with their soul and experience for themselves. And then it's so much kind of more real, because it's your felt, lived experience then.
Yes, that is the point. That is the point. We want you to look at this. We want you to feel this, right? Because when you feel it, you see it differently, right? When you actually immerse yourself into it, it's as that tree awakens back to the beautiful elements of life, and it regrows and reconnects. It is outwardly. This is what you're doing. Your soul is awakening up and you're beginning to connect differently from the inside out, not the outside in. And it's go with the flow. Be in that wonderful self-discovery of what your heart and soul and spirit is trying to show you. Reach out to people like Kimberley who are going to help you understand what's going on, because the human side of us, the ego, needs to understand. Otherwise it builds a fear. But how to actually tap into that beautiful divine energy and the essence of you and allow and surrender yourself to be.
Yeah. Meditation, past life regression, theta healing. I work with past lives and ancestral and future lives. But really is about allowing yourself that gift to take time out, because we're so busy, aren't we? And I'll include myself sometimes in that,
Yeah.
And so our soul is wanting to have time with us, right?
Yes.
And to connect and to strengthen that relationship. And the more that we can have that connection, and when I say soul, it can be you perceive and connect with your soul through your heart. The heart is a portal.
Yes.
Right?
Well, if a closed heart won't allow the soul wisdom. So we need to open up our heart in order for that soul wisdom to come through.
But if you go into if you sit quietly and you allow yourself to feel what you feel, and you go into your heart and ask your heart a question, or you could imagine your heart like a cave, if you like, and you can go in and you can explore, and the heart is a portal, and that will take you all kinds of different amazing places. And sometimes you might just want to go and sit in your heart and chill and relax and feel that love. Right? The love
Self-love.
that you
Yes.
or receive healing and love, and you can do that, and then as you kind of more and more that you kind of connect, so the awareness opens up, so that we can journey to all kinds of amazing places and spaces and receive amazing wisdom and profound insight and healing and help for all kinds of different issues that we have in our life that are going on. But it's coming from your soul. So it's not being dependent on somebody else telling you what to do or teaching you. It's
comes
like
from the
your path. We all have individual unique pathways.
Now I want people to go back and listen to your old shows. The first one we did was on archetypes. The second time was channeling what you're worth in business. And you definitely directed that at the spiritual nation who have that difficulty. And then the show we did together was manifesting love. And we did also a show on, you have your programs here on everything that you do to help people find love, meaning, happiness, and build a sound business as well. And of course, there's this show today. So all people have to do is simply go to selfdiscoverymedia.com and put in Kimberley Lovell, which is with 2 L's, and all of your shows will come up. But will you tell people how they can get the books? I know it's not out yet, but they can sign up for a and get a book bonus.
So I'm super excited. So I've had a really interesting birthing pains, shall we say. And so today I had some issues with Amazon and tech and accounts and so forth. Anyway, that will all be resolved. So the I wanted for the book to be out 2/2/22. That's what I thought, and I thought it'll be live. It'll be up for pre-orders 2/2/22, and it will be launched on the 22nd to 22.
Right.
That was what the book told me. Anyway, I was like, oh, it's not happening. Anyway, it is. It's I've uploaded some, and I needed to wait a few days for them to sort something out, and it will actually be showing as available for pre-order, which means that you get it at a really great deal if you get it on pre-order. And then it will be, I think I gave myself some leeway because there's been all this technical stuff. I'm like, okay, let's just put another date in and I can bring it forward. So it's my intention that it will be live, and you can have it in your hands or on your Kindle on the 22nd of the 2nd. At the moment, when you see it show for pre-orders, it will probably show the 20th of March for the launch, but the plan is that will be forward. Yeah.
Wonderful. So what is your
and when
site?
You sign up, when you sign up, well, I will have it showing on my website, because I've got the link, and it will be on Amazon, and so the Kindle book will be up first, and then the paperback will be showing as well by that date when it goes live, and you'll be able to buy it from Amazon, or you'll be able to buy it from my site, which will just link you through to Amazon. But if you sign up, there are some links in the book, or you can come and find my website, find me on Facebook. I'm going to have a Facebook group, people that have read the book and want to kind of talk about, questions and so forth. And I'm also going to be running some Facebook lives and some sessions. But the people that actually purchase on the pre-order, I'm also going to include you in a free group regression that will probably all do kind of like, I don't know, maybe like 3 weeks or so after the book's gone live.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and then there's also some meditations, some hypnotic meditations that will connect you with your higher self, that will connect you with, I'm trying to think what else is in there. One that takes you to the chakras and balancing and healing. So there's about 3 or 4 different meditations that are included in the book.
Wonderful.
Bonus.
Wonderful. And of course, the book is called Soul Journeys, and it's Kimberley Lovell, double L. So you can go over to Amazon. I will have a link on her show page. And of course, your site is Kimberley Lovell. Actually, no, it's Kimberley. Sorry, I haven't got my glasses on. Got to get my glasses on.
Lovell.
.co.uk, folks, not .com. So .co.uk. So
either will find me.
And of course, you've got your group Soul Journeys on Facebook, and you've got your group Wealthy Business Goddess, and you've got your YouTube here as well. And you've got a number of links here. You've got, I think, and you've got some MP3s and things like this here as well. So there's a lot going on here. But if you just simply also go to selfdiscoverymedia.com/Kimberley Lovell, all of her shows and all of her information will be there as well. And I'm always saying we don't have to wait for Christmas or birthdays to gift a book. We can gift it to ourselves. And, I always say, have a podcast group, like a book group. Everybody read the book and then, talk about it, because we learn from each other and how each other has, how it's affected us, what we've learned from it. And then that expands that knowledge when you share how you feel about the book. Saying when you listen to a podcast, what did you get out of it? What did I get out of it? This is my perception of it. And it just, it shares the energy and allows that energy to grow. But please go back and listen to all our other shows, even though they've been done over the years. They're all extremely relevant. And we go down very many different avenues, as we always do. And we could always probably talk for several hours. But that's why we had to break it up into so many shows.
And if you do read the book, then I would love to hear how it lands for you and any questions, because I will want to share more support based on what questions that you have, and everybody's different. So
yes,
I will be doing that in the Facebook group, and that would be really good to know kind of like
wonderful
what questions it's left you with, and I can help you more.
So it's Kimberley Lovell, repivot.co.uk, folks, and all of the information will be up there. And I'm excited for your book to come out, and that is even coming out, in February 2nd month 22. It's still good, but it's the Chinese New Year. It's the year of the water, the conduit. It's the year of ignition. It's a good time for it to come out, because I think people are ready to receive.
Yeah, and like I say, that was kind of like what I was planning. So it is like, it should be up. It's been, I think it takes 3 days for Amazon to sort it. So I didn't get it like showing live, but it's uploaded on the 2nd, and it will probably be 2-3 days, and then it will show. But actually, I think, that will work out perfectly. And then the 22. So I feel like, everything is divinely timed,
Yes.
isn't it, as we were
Yes.
saying? And so there was no mistake, right?
No.
So I was like, oh, I should have done this. No. The book said, no, it's the 2 to 22, 2 to the 22, because it's a portal, and it will kind of like something about all of that energy,
Yes.
Everything is a living thing, and it's consciousness, and so there's something about that.
Yeah.
We can't reason it out.
No, and it's not for our human
is.
brains to reason it out. Our soul spirit knows what needs to be done when it needs to be done, and it knows which energy to tap in when. And unless we're absolutely, utterly astute to know exactly when, that's the head desire, or the ego's desire, and we just have to give it up to spirit and let it go when and do what it needs to do when it needs to do it.
Yeah.
Wonderful having you back here again, Kimberley.
Oh, it's such a pleasure always to connect with you, Sarah. Yeah.
I will see you again soon.
Yeah.
And don't forget, folks, if you know somebody that is awakening right now, or just kind of querying about this dimensional world, or past lives, or future lives, they may be even dabbling about it. This is the book for them, because now they're going in and reading other people's experiences that have done it, that have been there, and what is possible. And it helps them open up to their own experience and not to feel so afraid from it, and really willing to explore. And then Kimberley can help you with your own direction in life, with your own awakening. And she's very happy to do so, because that's what she loves doing.
I do indeed. And, I have been told that within the book, there are also keys and codes. So on an unconscious level, your soul will receive some kind of activation or awakening by reading. And that will open things up for you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there for a reason. So read it. Thank you so much, Kimberley. And remember,
thank you.
We're all here on a beautiful elevation of dimension, of going into a higher plane. And the more we embrace it, the more we realize we are the healing this world needs. We are the connection to the universe, which what it needs. And that higher elevation of beautiful divine love is what everything needs. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. Please tune in to our selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows, and you will see all the other genres that we have from you. Every week on Tuesday, we bring you new shows from illuminating people. If you know someone that should be interviewed, please contact us at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com. Now stay tuned for your next show.